Hey, Mike Raine here with Canadian Musician, and once again, I'm with Jacquie, Liam, and Stephen from the Balconies. As I've said in the past, one of my favorite Toronto bands, or just Canadian bands in general, and it seems to be becoming a regular occurrence that I'm talking to you guys, but once again, it's always a pleasure to see you guys.
We like seeing you.
And as we were kind of just mentioning, well, I guess I should lead off by saying Fast Motions. Shouldn't be news to people, but the debut full-length dropped in January, Fast Motions. And so yeah, like we were talking about a little bit before the interview started, when I first met you guys in 2012, I believe it was like mid-2012, you had just finished recording what was going to be the debut full-length. And but then, well, I guess this is what we'll talk about. You guys decided to re-record it, and then it came out this past January. So why the decision? John Drew had done the first incarnation of the full-length, who was also the producer on the Kill Count EP. I guess what was behind the decision to, re-record the album?
Yeah, sure. I mean, the session with John Drew was fantastic. He really helped us grow a lot as a band. If you ever heard the demo we released in 2009, it was like, super kind of like surfy guitars, really indie sounding, if you use that term. And since then, like over the next couple of years, we started getting a lot louder and heavier. And then we did the Kill Count EP session with John Drew. We recorded, 15 songs, which we thought, hopefully would turn into the next full length. And he really helped us, improve as a band. He brought our really loud live sound to life on a record, which was really great. As we were doing that record and then shopping it and stuff, we were touring for, I think it turned into a year and a half of touring, and the record still hadn't come out yet. And we had kind of gotten tired of just kind of that same old stuff. And it was like, in that time we were contacted by Arnold Lanni, and he was really interested in the band, and he kind of approached us and talked about wanting to work on songs with us. And in a way, we thought, well, because the record, or the unreleased record hadn't done anything yet, why not? We felt there was a lot more we could get out of those songs. So, we also thought, why not use this as an opportunity to even further improve as a band? Maybe we can release that stuff we did in the Kill Count EP sessions later. I still think there's a life for those songs and those demos for songs that some of them turned into songs on the Fast Motions record. So we're definitely still proud of that material. It just, for where the band was 2 years after recording it, we really felt like it made sense to go in and just kind of section off a lot of time to really focus on songwriting and just kind of kicking the band into a new level. And I wanted to move on to guitar and turn into a four-piece, make the band sound fuller, be more exciting live. All that stuff just kind of all happened around the same time, and it's working out really well for us.
I think because we were touring so much with a lot of really heavy, loud rock bands. We were on tour with Rival Sons. We went to Europe and did a cross-Canada tour with them, with Big Sugar. Gordon Johnson's known for having these really almost like bone-shaking guitar tones, and you feel it in your whole body. And it set this bar for us, and we're like, wow, we want to not sound like them as like sonically, but we do want to have that effect on people, on the audience. So, and we had never worked with a songwriter before. We had never worked with a producer who spends so much energy and time crafting every guitar part, every vocal part, and having so much character in every little piece. Every piece has is just as important as the next. So that was really valuable with Arnold. So it was a fantastic experience.
And kind of like you guys alluded to, I noticed, one of the first things I noticed when I listened to Fast Motions when it came out was it sounds, in comparison to Kill Count and the first few times I'd seen you guys live, it sounds like a very polished record. Was that your guys' intention? Was that Arnold's influence? And how much of that was, I guess, I don't know how to phrase it, but like a desire to be more commercially sounding? I guess
it was a combination of Arnold being really nitty-gritty perfectionist, not only in how everything is played, but in the songwriting. So the song structures on Fast Motions are a lot more kind of like traditional, and that they have choruses that hit. They have distinct verses, pre-chorus, bridges, chorus. Whereas the earlier stuff we were writing more based on just kind of how it sounded live, not really worrying about traditional songwriting, which was really cool for the first few years. We had a lot of fun playing that stuff, but then the real kicker for us was when we started trying to do stripped down versions of the songs, and we couldn't make them just work by playing one acoustic guitar and singing the song, because that needed all the colors and the dynamics. So we were doing a lot of the stuff, Jacquie playing viola, Steve playing double bass, me playing classic guitar, and having a lot of vocal harmonies, and that was really cool too. But still, the songs we didn't feel like were totally finished yet. So Arnold, really made us pick things apart, strip down, made us think a lot more about the song structures, but also is such a perfectionist in how things are played. And he really, really worked Jacquie and her vocal performance. Like, the energy of her vocal on Fast Motions is a lot more like how she is live, and it's every single word he had an issue with, like, get it like this. And same goes with the guitar parts, same goes with the bass parts. Like, he just made us, he wasn't happy until we were playing a lot better, and as a result he really improved how we play, and
But also, just to add to that, sorry, we're giving you crazy long answers here. Just to add to that, I feel Arnold, yes, had a huge influence on us, on almost leading us towards that perfection. But I feel like once we kind of got in this flow of working with Arnold, we almost took pieces of what he taught us, and then we just applied it to what we were doing anyways. So I'm really grateful for that skill now. I know what I need to do in order to execute this vocal part, in order to have that animation, in order to have that kind of characteristic that makes the sound exciting, So I think we were both trying to strive for that polished sound, and we wanted something that would be radio friendly, but still had that gritty dirtiness that we would have live. So yeah.
Well, with that, like you were saying, how Arnold's perfection crafting the songs, and with your vocal approach and that kind of thing, you often hear a lot about how playing live influences a band in the studio. Mm-hmm. But is what you guys learned from Arnold in the studio, or just being in the studio in general, has that affected your guys' live show?
Absolutely. I'd say the nature of the parts in general on the album of Fast Motions, they're much more integrated parts. Each of the instruments are communicating with one another rather than being very distinct voices, kind of in their own part of the texture. So just because of the nature of that, it's made the performance, I think, a lot more exciting, because you see this dialogue almost between the players on stage, and we feel as musicians and in sync with the audience. So I think it's just much more exciting as a show, because in the studio it got a lot more in depth. Yeah.
One of the things I always found fascinating about you guys is you're as killer live rock and roll band, but you guys are actually all, it might come as a surprise, but you're all classically trained musicians, which I always thought was really cool sort of dynamic going on. Well, when you got in the studio and you're doing that's very knowledgeable music background, did that help you when you were doing the crafting of the songs?
The way I felt while we were doing the record with Arnold was that I was really I don't know what you call it. I was really happy that we had all undergone kind of the university school approach, because what that really gave us was an ability to step back from, leave our egos behind. Even though we're working really hard on playing this stuff, if somebody gives you a suggestion on how you can improve it, you'll take that into consideration instead of just telling the producer to put it somewhere else. And I mean, we were all, as I said earlier, worked really, really hard by Arnold, but I feel like because we all spent so much time in school, we're very familiar with the process of taking constructive criticism and integrating it into what you're playing. And I was very grateful for my school experience when working with Arnold.
Also, though, with the school experience, it has given us that ability to kind of readapt something new. So in that sense, it really has prepared us. But also with Arnold, it's almost like relearning things, because it's a total different approach. So, but being able to have a clean slate when you start working with a new producer is a good skill to have, I think.
It's like working with a new professor, with a new teacher, when you're doing these master classes and you're like, I worked really hard on this. This sounds really perfect. I'm going to play this Bach, sonata for you now. And then you go to this master class and they completely shut you down and are like, that was horrible. That was the worst thing I've ever heard in my life. And you're like, wow, okay, so I can still improve. I'm not the greatest thing that ever walked this planet. So it's like pretty humbling, and I think it's just going to set the bar even higher for you next time, and you become your own competition basically. And it is harsh at first when you hear it, but I think constructive criticism is only going to benefit you in the long run. So yeah.
Nice. And over the last 3 years, you guys have been it has to be one of the hardest working bands as far as hitting the road. You guys have been touring relentlessly, it seems, for the do you guys write on the road, or do you just write at home? Like, essentially, are you still formulating new material even for a follow-up, even though Fast Motions isn't that old?
Yeah. Last year we did 290 shows, which is pretty crazy. So we were really looking forward to having a bit of time off once Christmas came around. I can only speak for myself. Obviously, I'm always writing. I'm always trying to do writing exercises, should I say, and try to put limitations on what I'm going to write. Today I'm going to write a poem about a dog or something like that. I think just keeping your writing as active as you possibly can is just going to benefit your songwriting. And I try to read a lot, and so I always write down little quotes that I like or words. I'm like, oh, that kind of sounds cool. So I think just keeping that creative flow going is really great, even if you feel like you're not creating something that you're going to use for the band later on. But we're always writing. We're always trying to be creative and explore new venues. And we're looking forward to actually writing very soon to work on the next record. So yeah.
In a sense, being on the road, we are able to write because the experience is set in with you, like in your subconscious. But it really is hard to have that creative spark when you're with other people, stuck in a van, always busy. So you really do need your alone time as an artist to like be able to bring something to the table to collaborate with. But we feel like as soon as we got home, we have had a little time off. So as soon as we got home, we had this influx of ideas. So we have tons of new songs coming out now. Our plan is to get a new album out as quickly as possible, and see how it goes.
It sounds like it's kind of like a studious approach to songwriting. Like, I talk to a lot of songwriters, musicians, and you hear all kinds of approaches, but some people it's like, you have to wait for the inspiration to hit you. Right. And other people, and that's actually I found it fascinating. Just the other day I was reading an interview with Damon Albarn from Blur and Gorillaz and that, and I thought it was interesting when I was reading this that he was talking about like treating it as like a 9-to-5 job. He goes into the studio day in and day out. Like some days nothing will happen, and some days but for you it sounds like that's the kind of approach that you prefer, is kind of be constant, and eventually, the greatness will hit, but just keep working that muscle, sort of thing.
Yeah, for me, it's almost like a spiritual thing that happens. That sounds so cheesy when I'm saying it now, but I do try to think of it as like a 9-to-5 job, but I also like I was saying, try to create these almost restrictions on when I'm gonna write. It's like I have an hour before I have to be somewhere. I'm gonna sit down with my guitar and just see what happens, because I find those are the times when, because there's no pressure, that's when this and that's why I say it's spiritual. It's like this thing that's bigger than me, that's greater than me, that just like this energy that passes through me. It's like I blink and I look down, I'm like, I just wrote an entire song. How did that happen? It might not be the best song I ever wrote, but it's pretty incredible. And I've heard many other artists talk about their writing experience be like that, and I totally understand where they're coming from. I think Tom Waits explains songwriting like that. He's like, just this force that blasts through you, and it comes and it goes. It's like the ocean, it comes in waves. So that's why I think it's really good to just keep writing, even if you feel like you're not writing anything that's of value, because you're almost making your own luck that way, because eventually the wave's going to come back.
Yeah, I think also it's in sync with our stylistic approach, because we're not trying to just release something as like a raw indie rock song. Before that was more the case, but with that sort of thing, it's like if you're an artist, a quick sketch is not the finished product. You got to keep going to it each day and doing the touch-ups and add the next layer of paint and whatnot. So I kind of see it that way. We need to live with it, breathe with the same songs day in, day out, so they can keep growing and evolving.
Sounds good. Well, we'll wrap it up, but guys, it's always fantastic to see you. And Fast Motions, it's out. Kill Count, Do It in the Dark, Slow. It's full of killer songs. So thanks, guys.
Thanks a lot.